Over the next 10 years, I want to see an Africa that respects women's voices.
I want to see the Africa that is democratic.
Over the next 10 years, I want to see an Africa that is gender just.
Women standing and supporting each other in the fight towards women issues.
Women taking leadership positions.
Freedom to speak. They have all the freedom to move with their children without any restrictions. So that is what I want to see in the next 10 years.
From the angle of working in Nigeria, it was always conservative. And whilst we had CEDAW was something that was viewed as very Western. So it made the advocacy work more difficult because you had to really argue and use examples of how CEDAW could make things better. But with the Maputo Protocol, it's our document as Africans, by us, for us.
By 2003, when the protocol was adopted, very few countries had done that. And the discriminatory laws touched on issues such as the rights, well-being and dignity of women, even issues such as citizenship, the right to employment, the right to political participation, harmful traditional and cultural practices that were placing women at complete disadvantage because of the harm that such practices were doing to women.
Women were not full citizens of their countries, from the way they were being treated, from the gross violations with the impunity that went with all the violations of the rights of women and girls. We had child marriage, harmful traditional practices, and the fact that women were not well represented in government and leadership.
The most significant change has been the opportunity for women to have voices in places and in tables and on tables where they didn't have them before. Because now you can't say it's un-African. We have a document that is by us, for us, and represents us.
I will say that with the adoption of this protocol, it's like an acknowledgement that women are human beings too, that women are full citizens of their countries, that whatever the men are entitled to, whatever access to opportunities that are available, that women are also should also have access, and that the girl child should not be made to feel inferior to the boy child. Governments are held accountable for the promotion and protection of the rights of women and girls in their country. For me, that is a very significant change.
I'm one of the organizations that took the government of Nigeria to court, and we were the first to test the Maputo Protocol using the ECOWAS courts. And we won. Judgment was issued against the government with a compensation for the 4 victims, I think of 6 million naira. They never honored it, but that's not the point. The point is that particular judgment is now a landmark document for many universities teaching law and human rights, and the various articles of the Maputo Protocol that they found against the government.
I think the most significant change has been the recognition that women's rights in Africa are human rights.
In positive ways, because today we are celebrating 20 years of the Maputo Protocol, and this came through the effort of women, ensuring that there is very strong language in this progressive document, and also availing rights for women both in public and private spaces.
Today across the continent, we see more women and girls going to school because their families, their communities, their governments have invested more in education. When it comes to maternal deaths over the continent, the numbers have significantly reduced due to improved access to sexual and reproductive health services. And even when it comes to women's participation in politics and decision making, we have countries like Rwanda that have attained gender parity, where we have 50-50 representation in parliament when it comes to ministerial positions. And this is because most of the governments that have ratified have taken an extra effort to domesticate and implement and align their national laws to articles that are stipulated in the protocol.
I think we still need to work together as a coalition. We need to work together as women, as women's rights organization, to ensure that we push the agenda for domestication, we push the agenda for ratification, and where we need to actually support other countries. I think we can visit the different missions within our countries and also support the countries that have not ratified, those that have not even gone further to domesticate. I think that's also something that we need to do. We have started doing that, but we can still continue as a way forward.
I think first, implementation of the Maputo Protocol, better resourcing models for women's rights movement, activism is what has largely driven the progress that we have seen on the women's rights movement. I think collectively for me, I'm hoping for a more positive, feminist influence thought leadership on the Maputo Protocol. I also hope that our countries and the African Union see this and welcome this as something that should be done in their own spaces as well, and so that we'll be able to achieve an equal and a just Africa for women and girls of Africa.
We are also trying to popularize this protocol, to create this awareness. This protocol has helped so much because it has made women to be conscious of their rights.
First of all, there is need to improve our laws and policies. There is need to put in place measures to curb stereotypes and male patriarchy that has perpetuated our societies, that make it unfavorable, the ground unleveled for a young girl or women to participate in the daily development of activities. So we need to promote education. We need to have laws and policies that create a fair environment, and we also need to fight the cultural practices and stereotypes that perpetuate discrimination in our societies.
I think the only way we can achieve it is if there's a movement that is guided not just by Maputo Protocol, but that is guided by African feminist principles, that we need to dismantle patriarchy, that we need to recognize the ills of capitalism, that we need to recognize the ways in which white imperialism forces us to choose between our dignity or to choose between food on the table. And more importantly, doesn't recognize the fact that we cannot win this alone, that our liberation is tied together, that unless a woman living with disability, living with HIV, unless a woman who's lesbian, bisexual or queer, unless a young woman or a child who's a girl, unless she's able to live freely and without dignity, that means I am not free either. So until we realize that, I think we will not get the Africa we want. But I hope we all can work towards that.
It's very important to call upon the women rights organization. They need to build up a coalition to push the women rights agenda forward.
In Africa is actually to say policy and practice.
We need to economically empower our women, especially the young women.
An Africa where we have equal rights.
Economic empowerment, the inclusion of men, the strength to exercise our leadership journey.
Being able to take up leadership, women being able to not being subjected to really harmful practices like female genital mutilation and child marriages.
In the next 10 years, we would like to see a solidarity movement whereby there is reduced inequality, whereby we have reduced gaps and indifferences, whereby we have equal representation of both men and women at all levels. We would like to see in the coming years that a girl child has equal access to education, equal access to facilities, and can compete fairly within a flexible legal and legislative framework that supports all.
Over the next 10 years, I would like to see women thriving both economically and politically. In the economic sphere, I would like to see women proudly and confidently owning businesses. In the political sphere, I would like to see women holding top position and holding leadership position. Basically, I would just like to see women working towards achieving the Africa we want.